So, Michelle, this happens to be our 400th episode, and we came into this week with a plan of recapping our trip to Disneyland recently. But then something came up that really took precedence over this because we got the chance to bring aboard some really, really exciting guests, right?
Yeah, I'm just so thrilled. I am fangirling. I just can't tell you how excited I feel that we are so honored to have some really incredible people joining us today.
Yeah. So let's get to who we have with us today. And it's going to be, this is going to be a long lead in because they both have lengthy resumes. We'll start with Disney legend Martha Blanding, or as she's lovingly known, Martha B. Yes. She broke new ground at Disney throughout her career. She started at Disney by becoming Disneyland's first Black full-time tour guide, where she quickly ascended to becoming a VIP tour hostess within a year, which is pretty much unprecedented. She's also hosted, of course, many big-name celebrities in that role. She's served as the designated hostess for U.S. government officials and international delegates. She's also, this is going to be a lot of firsts here. Get ready for a lot of firsts. She is also the first Black woman to earn a management role at Disneyland and became the first Black female merchandise buyer at Disneyland Resort and across all of the Disney parks. From there, she moved on to become the senior manager of Disneyland Resort merchandise and special events. She later became a contributing and pioneering producer of the official Disneyana convention. You know what that's all about, Michelle.
In there.
It's the forerunner to D23, the ultimate Disney fan event, which I will always call the D23 Expo, but whatever, that's what it is now. If that's not enough, well, she also co-founded Pulse, which is a business employee resource group for Black Disneyland cast members. She retired in 2022 after spending 50 years with the Disneyland Resort. Oh yeah, she was also another first Black woman to achieve 5 decades of service with Disney. And that isn't enough first for you. She became the first Black Disney Parks employee to be awarded Disney Legend status in 2024. Oh, and she's co-written a book, Groundbreaking Magic, a Black woman's journey through the happiest place on earth. Yes, that's so long. But now we need to get to our other guest, who also has a lengthy resume. It's the co-author of that book, Tim O'Day. His amazing background, well, he's an award-winning public relations executive, best-selling author, successful event producer, and acknowledged Disney historian. Some of his fantastic ideas led to things like creating an Olympic-sized pool down Main Street, USA at Disneyland to host U.S. Olympic swimmers, procuring a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame for Disneyland itself, placing Dumbo in the Smithsonian, and one of my favorite stories that if we find time, we may need to have him tell on today's show, having pardoned Thanksgiving turkeys from the White House when they to retire to the Disney parks, which is still recognized as one of the most successful PR stunts in Disney history. He also helped secure the National Medal of Arts for the legendary Sherman Brothers. He helped establish D23, the official Disney fan club. He's all over Behind the Attraction, the series on Disney Plus. As a matter of fact, you can't get away from him on that. And recently, he was part of the brain trust behind the amazing Leslie Iwerks documentary, now available on Disney Plus. Disneyland handcrafted. Okay, I need to catch my breath. Let's go ahead and welcome them both in because we couldn't be more honored to welcome Martha Blanding, and Tim O'Day. Welcome to the Hyperion Adventures podcast. Whew.
Thank you.
Very, very impressive. Both.
Martha B takes your breath away.
Those are incredible resumes, and we're so honored to have you on the show. Thank you so much for being willing to spend some time with us on this episode.
Thank you for having us. Very honored.
And you got Martha's name right. Martha B.
Got to punctuate right. Yeah.
Got it right.
Thank you. Tim O'Day. You know what comes after that.
B.
I'm going to.
She loves me.
So let's go ahead and get to it. Martha, again, thank you for joining us on the show. We have to start, of course, from the beginning. the start of your Disney career, how did you get involved in getting a job at Disneyland? And maybe you could tell us a little bit about kind of the interview process that got you into that amazing first role.
Well, the reason why I seek the job at Disneyland is because I wanted to help my parents with my tuition in college. I'm a twin, and you know how expensive it is to put one child through school, through college. They had two at the same time. It's not cheap. And we were not a wealthy family at all. So I was looking for a job. I had a little babysitting job. I babysitted these two kids while the mother went to class. Then she'd come back, and then she'll take the boys and then come back again so I can, watch them while she goes through another class. In between that, I was going to my classes. That wasn't enough. And then I heard that Disney was hiring students from Cal State Fullerton to become a cast member at Disneyland. So I thought, I'll go and see if I can get a job. So I drove to Disneyland and I went to the employment office. I walked in, went up to the front desk, and a cast member came up to the desk and said, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Yes, I'd like to apply for a job." And he looked at me and he said, "We don't have no jobs for you." I said, okay. So I turned around and I walked out and I went and sat in my car, and it was question, and I drove back to school and changed my clothes and went to class. And I thought, okay, I need to put another strategy together so I can find a job someplace else. I went to class. Then a few weeks later, my best friend had heard that Disneyland was coming to the school to recruit students to work at Disneyland. And I heard about it, but I thought they don't have a job for me. So I'm not gonna do anything. I'm going to class. So I went to class, and my girlfriend, she was coming back. They were in the dorm that I stayed in, and they were on the floor in the conference room where I stayed, where I lived. So I'm walking down the hallway, and Rita comes out and she goes, "Martha, Disneyland is here." I said, "Yeah, I know." And she said they were getting ready to clean up, and I asked them to hold up, that there was one more person that wanted to apply for a job. And I said, "Rita, I'm not going down there." She said, "Yeah, you are." So I went to the room, and she followed me to my room, and she said, "Change your clothes and go for the interview." And I said, "Rita," I said, "I'm not going." Okay. Well, I don't have a problem with confrontation, but it's kind of hard when you're confronting between your best friend. Well, make a long story short, she won. And so I changed clothes. So I went down to apply for the job. The job that I actually got was a dish up at the Plaza Inn. And then I was standing talking to someone, and then one of the employees from Disney came up and asked me if I wanted to be a tour guide. And I said, "I have no idea what that is, but it has to be better than dish up." I knew all about food because my mother, my godmother, my aunt, they were caterers. They did weddings, they did parties and stuff. And I didn't particularly like that business, although it's a great business. Don't get me wrong. They make good money, but it just wasn't for me. So I said, okay. So they said, "Fine, we'll make arrangements for you to come to the park and talk to the manager, Cicely Rigdon." And I said, "Okay, that's fine." So they made the arrangements for me to go and talk to her. Got to Disneyland, went through the back way. I've never been to Disneyland that way before. And so walking backstage was like, oh my God, I can't believe this. Look at this. You can see the back of the Matterhorn. You can see the back of Tomorrowland, the back of Main Street. And I'm walking around. I could have just stayed right there and not budge, just admiring everything in the backstage. So someone came over they were looking for me because I was taking too long. They said, "Come on, dear, you have to I had to go over to City Hall to see Cicely." So she was standing on the porch waiting for me. So I walked into City Hall, and she sat down. She introduced herself. I introduced myself. She was asking me questions, and we were talking. And then she said, "Dear, can I ask you a last question?" I said, "Sure." She goes, can you speak louder than that? I said, and I said this real loud. I'm not going to do this to you guys. But I said to her, yes, I can speak real loud because I have two brothers. One is 6'4" and one is 6'5", and they're real big. They play football. And I have to yell at them all the time. And she said, you got the job. So I got the job as a tour guide at Disneyland. And I was so excited. And so I left and left there, got in the car, drove back to Disneyland. Drove back to Cal State Fullerton to my room, and I was walking down the hallway. I saw Rita and I said, I got a job. And she was happy for me. But I had to call my mother and tell her what I had done because I hadn't talked to her about it before. And so I went to the telephone and I called my mother and I said, Mama, I have something to tell you. She said, what's that, dear? She was so happy to see me. And we were very close. And I said, I got a job at Disneyland for the summer. And so I'm not going to be home. I'm going to stay out here and so I can go to work and I'll come home on my days off. She didn't want me to come to work at Disneyland because being in Orange County, it was not exactly the best place for a Black person to be. And she knew that. And it was a new area. I was learning my way around and everything. And I said, but Mom, I need the job so I can help you and Daddy with my tuition. I said, Mary and I both, Renella and I both are in college, and I know it's not easy for you. And we have two brothers also. And so I did a lot of talking. I mean, a lot of talking. And she finally said, okay, that's fine. You can go ahead and sign your papers and you can work there. And I said, thank you, Mama. I said, it'll be really good. You'll see, it'll be great. So she said, I know, and I know you'll do your best. I said, I will, I'll make you proud. And she said, okay, that's fine. And I went and signed my papers and I was very happy. And the only sad part about it is that the first day that I was supposed to start working at Disneyland was the day we buried her. My mother had a massive heart attack, and she didn't see me in my tour guide outfit, but she knew I was going to work there. And so my beginnings of working at Disneyland was kind of hard because I didn't have my mother. But I made it. I did that for myself. I did it for her.
The start don't need to interrupt there, but the start of a career of perseverance for sure, right there off the get.
Yeah. So anyway, but my daddy saw me in my tour guide outfit, and he thought I was crazy too, but he loved it. He loved it.
I bet. Well, speaking of that, not just in your experience as a tour guide, which you had some amazing ones, and I like in the book how you talk about giving people a little something. It kind of helps turn that disappointment into magic. And I know that our listeners love a little something behind the scenes, and your book is just jam-packed with some gems, some marvelous ones. Some of my favorites that I highlighted was when you were a VIP tour guide and got to meet Rock Hudson and had some amazing times there. And also when you were in events with Julie Andrews going to her Beverly Hills office, and you definitely made an impression on her.
Oh, the celebrities, they were amazing. It was I had the opportunity to spend a lot of time with them. When you're with them on a VIP tour, it's you and them. Their managers are with them sometimes, but then there are moments when it's just you and that celebrity. And I'm not I like for them to feel comfortable. So I don't hover over them. I wasn't a hoverer, but talking to them, you do your homework, you find out things about them, you read up on them, and so that you can have a conversation with them. It was amazing. And Julie Andrews, Rock Hudson, Cary Grant, Diana Ross, Cher, it was, I mean, these are memories that I will never forget, and experiences that I think about them and I think, I met Brock Hudson and Cary Grant and Diana Ross and Cher. It's just unbelievable. And I'll share a story with you. So, Rock Hudson, I was asked to do a show with Romper Room. Are you familiar with Romper Room?
Oh, yes.
Okay. All right. We're not telling our age, but anyway.
No.
Anyway.
I don't
So they
remember Romper Room.
Sure.
See there? This is what I had to work with. Okay. This is it. And this is why I say to him, I'll give you a quarter. You can go get some ice cream. Okay. So they asked me if I would go up to the Channel 5 to talk about our Christmas program at Disneyland with our Disney characters. And so I said, okay, yes, Cicely, our manager asked me to do that. I said, okay. She says, you have to be here at 4:00 in the morning. Well, it was on a school day, which meant that I would miss my classes. So I had, of course, to make arrangements with my professors so that I could make it up later on. Not a problem. So went to Disneyland at 4:00 in the morning, got ready, got my costume on and everything, jumped in the van with the characters, and we drove up to Channel 5 up in Los Angeles. So we get there, and they're all excited because Disneyland is in the building. And so they take us to the green room. And so I'm in the green room, and it's quite obvious who I am and where I'm from because of the costume and everything. So we're standing there talking, and this man walks up to me, and he introduces himself, and he tells me that he's Rock Hudson's manager. And I said, oh, okay. And he tells me that Rock Hudson is going to be at the park for the candlelight ceremony. And I said, oh, okay. And I said, well, you never know. I may be his VIP hostess. And he looked at me and he said, I don't think so. We've already made those arrangements. It won't be you. So I'm thinking in my head, I'm thinking, you. Tell Tim to shut up.
Mute him. You need me to mute him?
And in my head, I'm thinking, you are such a jerk. And so I just looked at him and I smiled at professional Disney. I smiled and I said, okay. So we did what we had to do at Romper Room, talking to the kids, telling them about Christmas. The characters came out. We had such a lovely time. And then after it was over with, we left and went back to Disneyland. Well, when I got back to Disneyland, Cicely called me in her office and she said, dear, I need to talk to you about something. And so I said, okay. She said, I have a special assignment for you for tomorrow. I said, okay, which was Saturday. And I said, okay. She said, the VIP hostess that was supposed to be with Rock Hudson and his mother called in sick, and I'd like to put you on that tour. And so I said, okay. I didn't tell her what happened in Romper Room. I didn't say anything. And so I said, okay, that's fine. And she says, you'll meet his mother, and then you'll escort her over to the Club 33 where Rock is. And then you guys will have dinner, and then you'll stay with them for the rest of the evening. And so I said, okay, that's fine. So I left her office. And as I'm walking over to change clothes, when I get backstage, I am screaming, laughing hysterically, okay? Thinking about what happened at Channel 5, okay? And I'm just dying laughing. And Catherine was looking at me going, what is wrong with her? And I didn't say anything. And so I went and I changed clothes and I went home, okay? I went to the back and, did my thing. Came back in the next day. I put on my hostess outfit. And I went and I met his mother at the hotel. I escorted her over to the park, and then I escorted her up to Club 33. So when we walk out on the second floor of the club where the dining area is, we walk out and there he is at the table. And when we walked in, he could see us. and we could see him, but you couldn't see everybody else that was sitting at his table. So the closer we got, then he saw his mother. And if you know anything about Rock Hudson, he was a mama's boy, and he loved his mother and she loved her boy. Okay. And so he was so glad to see his mother. He got up and he goes, Mom. And he came over and he hugged her and everything. And I'm standing there. And then we walk in, and guess who's sitting at the table with them? Rock Hudson's manager. And so I look over at him and I act like I didn't know him. And so I introduced myself to Rock Hudson, and I looked at his manager because he introduced me to his manager, and I said, hello. And in my head, I said, you asshole. In my head, okay? But out in front, I said, how are you? It's so nice to meet you. And then Rock said, Mom, why don't you sit on this side of me? And Martha, why don't you come and sit on the other side of me? I said, it'll be my pleasure. And I sat down beside him, and I just looked at his manager and smiled. I just smiled at him.
So
So we were
awesome.
talking and everything, and Rock goes, okay, then we need to order something to eat. We're going to order some hors d'oeuvres. And I said, okay, that's fine. He says, Martha, have you ever had escargot? And I said, those are the snails that are in my mother's garden. I said, no. He says, would you like to try some? And I said, no, thank you. I don't have to try it. And he goes, you have to try the escargot. So they bring over the escargot, and Rock Hudson picks up one. And you know, the little cute little fork that you have yes. So he pulls the meat out of the shell, and he's bringing it over to my mouth. He goes, oh, he dips it in the butter and he brings it over and he goes, you have to taste this, Martha. And I'm thinking, Lord have mercy, I don't know how I'm going to get out of this one. So I said, okay. So he put it in my mouth and I was eating it. But then the light came on. First of all, everybody in the restaurant, Club 33, was watching us because it's Rock Hudson. But then I thought, every woman is watching me because they wish they were in my shoes being fed escargot by Rock Hudson. Okay.
Very Grecian.
Yes. I said, oh, this is just too. First of all, there's the manager sitting on the other side. And then Rock Hudson is feeding me escargot. And this man had already told me that I'm not going to be his VIP host. Not only his hostess, but he's feeding me. Okay.
Couldn't plan it better, right?
Plan it better. And we had such a nice visit. But then as we were going back to Main Street so that he could do the candlelight ceremony, his mother told him, she said, it was really cold and she wanted to go back to the hotel. So the other VIP hostess that was with us escorted her back to the hotel because it was time for her to leave. She was off. And I stayed with Rock and his manager. And as we were walking over, Rock goes, Martha, are you cold? And I had on a suit and I had on a cape. And I said, no, I'm fine. I was cold, but I wasn't going to say, yes, I'm freezing. Took off his overcoat and placed it around my shoulder. And he said, now you go over there and sit down and stay warm. And you know, I thought I had died and gone to heaven. Okay. Can you imagine?
No.
Rock Hudson's coat around you, okay? And you're watching candlelight sitting by the manager. I had a wonderful event. One candlelight ceremony, and it was beautiful, okay? Just beautiful.
Awesome.
Basically had the perfect date night with Rock Hudson right there.
Right. Perfect.
Oh my gosh.
But
That's so
you
awesome.
you had experiences like that. My experience with Cary Grant was amazing. And
Can I
he's one of
interject
my
here? Can I
all-time
just
favorite.
interject? Can I just interject something? You know, after we finished the book, Martha and I went on a Mediterranean cruise to promote the book with the Disney Vacation Club. And a group of us had brunch at Palo. Martha was sitting near me and she said, I'm going to order escargot. And I looked at her and I said, don't even think about it. I said, not going to happen, Martha. I'm no Rock Hudson. Not going to happen. I said, I said, I get mistaken for Rock Hudson, and I don't know. I said, no, not going to
I
happen.
love it.
For those of you listening on the podcast, you should see Martha B's eyes rolling around as Tim's talking right now.
Side eye there. The look, huh, Martha? The look.
I don't travel with the little forks. I just don't. Sorry, I don't do escargot. Sorry. See the look I'm getting? That's called the look.
Yeah.
And she's had the look. If you have the book, you'll see the look. She's had that look since she was a toddler. And that look has many meanings. And if you've known Martha for a long time, everybody's gotten the look one time or the other. I've gotten the look quite a bit. As a matter of fact, one time I got the look and turned into a pillar of salt. Changing back from that pillar of salt took some doing, but her sister Mary had to help me with that one.
Oh, and there's the look. There is the
That's
look.
Yeah, there's the look. Yeah. For you guys just listening, you'll have to imagine that.
Yeah.
And if you listen very closely, you can hear it.
Oh man.
Tim, while we're talking with you, tell us a little bit about your career with Disney, how you got started and progressed through the company to do some of those amazing events and PR work.
You got to meet Martha.
And got to meet Martha.
It does not. My career involves no escargot, and it doesn't include Cary Grant or Rock Hudson, or Diana Ross or Cher or Elton John, or anyone else. But it does include Martha. It does include Martha. I met Martha in, let's see, late 80s. Martha doesn't remember it, but I have a plaque that commemorates it somewhere at Disneyland. There's a plaque on the ground somewhere near Splash Mountain that commemorates that. So that's where we met, right there. It's near Tiana's Bayou Adventure. There's a plaque. Let's see. Martha and I met late 80s. It was around the time that Splash opened. I had heard of Martha. Everybody has heard of Martha. Yeah, Martha B. Yeah. Martha was very popular because, at one time she was the candy buyer at the resort, which makes you really popular when you're the candy buyer. Right, Martha B?
This is correct, but they asked about your beginnings.
Yeah, but you were the candy buyer, and she had a
Yes.
drawer. She had a drawer full of candy. It made her very popular, very popular. My beginnings. I was a parade brat. I was lucky.
Still a brat.
I was still. Yeah, escargot. That's all I'm going to say. I had a high school job, like a lot of kids, and then through college. It was interesting because when I was in college, the entertainment division and the marketing division actually had merged, and they were one division. And I was a communications major, so I was able to do my internship with the publicity department. So my mentors were people in publicity, and so I was able to work some really great events, like the opening of Captain EO. And I would get these kind of really cool assignments. I was asked to be one of the liaisons to Lucasfilm, the very first time that Disney worked with Lucasfilm, and so got to work the opening of Star Tours, and worked directly with Anthony Daniels, C3PO, and had some amazing experience having that one foot in entertainment, one foot in marketing. I worked with Michael Eisner on the Voice of Disney wraparounds for the TV show, and I worked the Tron premieres and a lot of the premieres up at the studio and such, and eventually ended up in promotions at Disneyland, and was in charge of a lot of the radio broadcasts, live radio broadcasts at the park, and worked on a lot of the TV specials that occurred in the 80s and early 90s at Disneyland. So my name is on a lot of those TV specials and a lot of the interstitials for the Disney Channel. And then around late 1990, I transferred up to Imagineering. So I was an Imagineer for a couple of years and worked the 20th anniversary of Walt Disney World. And then mainly my duties were the grand opening of Disneyland Paris. So I lived over in Paris for quite a long time. And that was terrific. And I actually got to work with a neighbor of mine who's still a neighbor, and that's Tony Baxter, who lives nearby. And so that was terrific. And then when I came back from Paris, I switched over to Disney Publishing. And if you were a kid back in the early 90s, they had a thing called Disney Adventures Magazine. And so I worked on Disney Adventures, Family Fun, and a magazine called Discover. And then after that, I was asked to go over to consumer products and head up communications and synergy for an area called, eventually it was called Walt Disney Art Classics, that handled all of the high-end collectibles and the art auctions and animation art for the company. And oddly enough, I was put in charge of all the auctions at Sotheby's in New York and Beverly Hills. And Martha and I worked on those together as well. And that was terrific. That was a lot of fun. And so I did that for about 10 years, and then they started a new initiative, and this is a fun project that Martha and I worked on. Uh, they started a new initiative called Disney Auctions by eBay. And so I said to Martha, in a little bit of a bind. I need a big item. I need a big item to kick off this initiative. And I said, but I need something like enormous. And Martha said, well, they're starting to work and build Disney California Adventure and redo the resort. And I'm going to take the Disneyland marquee, but I don't need both sides. Why don't you take one side and I'll take the other? So Martha took one side, I took the other, and I sold one side to John Stamos, and that's where he has one side that he displays at his house. So that was fun. So that's thanks to Martha. Um, and then I left the company after excuse me, after 9/11. And it's like The Godfather Part 3. I try to get out, and they pull me back in. And so I came back, and they asked me to help head up publicity for Disneyland's 50th, and that was an offer I couldn't refuse. Another Godfather analogy, and that's where I got to do some really fun things. And I said to them, I said, look, if you want me to come back and do budgets and reviews and things, I'm not your guy. If you want me to come back and be crazy creative man, I'm your guy. And they said, come back and be crazy man. So I did. And
He's
so as
crazy
you,
boy.
and I was crazy with Martha too on some of these things. And yeah, we did some great stuff. As a matter of fact, another thing that I worked with Martha on, two things for the 50th. Uh, um, so the 50th anniversary of the Mouseketeers falls within the window of Disneyland's 50th.
Mhm.
So we did a reunion. We did the 50th anniversary reunion of the Mouseketeers during that. But we also did the 50th anniversary of Davy Crockett. So thanks to Martha, that's how Fess Parker window came about in Frontierland. So Martha had a hand in that too. So that was pretty
Nice.
cool. And the Mouseketeer reunion is actually the very last time the Mouseketeers appeared together.
Mm.
All the original Mouseketeers appeared together at Disneyland. That was the last time they were all together.
It was
Um,
quite an experience.
I
yeah,
bet.
yeah. And they all performed together and everything. And we have a great shot of all of them in front of the castle. And they formed like a big mouse ears thing, and it was really fun. So yeah, so it's been quite a ride. And then of course D23 came about. Um, D23 is funny because the name D23 I in an odd way came up with because Stephen Clark, who helped found D23, asked me to come up with some names for it. And the name D23 honestly was near the bottom of the list. And I didn't like it.
Mm.
And he was going, and of course, my favorites were at the top, pushing my favorites were at the top. and I'm like, no, you like these. You like these. And no, what about this one down here? No, you don't like that one. You like these up here. No, but what's this one? Forget about that one. You like these up here. And he's like, no, I like this one. And he goes, what is this? I said, forget about that one. These are the ones you like. And he's like, no, I like that one. What is this? And so I said, well, it's a play on like Club 33, 23, 1923, and the company was founded. That's it. I like that because it sounds cool. I'm like, okay, fine. And so that's how that came about. But
Awesome.
yeah, but yeah, that was at the bottom of the list. And to
Funny.
this day, honestly, I don't remember what the other ones were. So but I have that list somewhere. I know it's in this office somewhere.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, the kickoff of D23 and all that fun stuff. So yeah, it's been quite the e-ticket ride. It's been fun.
Yeah.
But and then of course doing the book with Martha, which I'm actually a lot younger than I look. I'm about 15 years younger than I look.
Oh,
Doing the book with Martha has aged me. Um, I'm actually 35, and this is what happened. So
yes,
yeah,
it gave me gray hairs. Okay.
yeah, and I'm actually, to be honest with you, I'm usually about 6'4", and I'm actually standing up. It's taken that much off of me. Um, so,
You see
Well,
what I
that's
had?
and she wants to do another book. If that happens, I'll be 3 feet tall by then. So, yeah.
He's just
So,
he's unbearable. Okay. He's,
so yeah,
oh my gosh.
that's enough.
Well, getting back to the book, one of the things,
Yes, let's please go there. Let's go there. Yes, let's get me out of
sorry.
this.
I love it. I love your.
I know I don't really want to deviate, but
I do.
I actually want to be on Martha's side.
Yes,
Telling you
please.
sorry. But
Remember,
anyway,
Tom, this started out with them talking about Kurt Russell. We're incidental to the whole thing.
I-
We could leave and that'd be fine.
Might as well be the wallpaper, Tim. Might as
That's
well be the
right.
wallpaper.
Yes.
So one of the things, that I think really surprised me in the book and is the immersive feeling you get when reading it. And, before we came on, I even told Martha, I feel like I already know you. But one of the things I think that really helped with that was how you weaved into your story, Martha, what was going on in the community or in the country at large, and really getting a feel for more than just Martha's world, but how was that transcended among other things? And I wanted to know, how intentional was that choice, and why is it important for readers to understand your journey with that historical context?
When Tim and I first started working on the book, I said to him, you are going to learn a lot about Black history. And he later on, he even said himself, I wasn't sticking a knife in his butt or hitting him to make him say it or telling him I'd give him a quarter if he says it. But he even made a comment that he learned a lot about Black history. And this is not everybody, but it's a lot. The Black culture knows a lot about white history because it was in our books, in our history books at school. They did not put a lot about any other cultural history in the books, okay? It wasn't until you talked to someone, or if you took a Black history class, that they talked about Black history. But even in the Black history class, they talked about all of the history, all of it, because everybody is history. Black, white, orange, yellow. That's why we have the world that we have now, because everybody is history. But they didn't talk about Black history. And then the other thing is Tim is very detailed. And so as we are writing the book together, and we're talking about different things, he's asking me questions about things that happened to me and my family during that time. What was going on in our homes, what was going on in our areas. And so we felt that it was important to share it, because a lot of times when you say that, I lived in South Central Los Angeles. So I lived in the Watts, Compton area. That's where I grew up. But if you say that to it's not everybody, but if you say it to a lot of non-Black people, they think Compton Watts, bad area, robbing, killing. They don't know anything. They're they're lazy. They're shiftless. They're just not any good. That's not true. We are the same as everybody else. In my community, my brothers and his friends played baseball and football in the street, just like they did in your community, in your area. My parents socialized with other parents on our street. On my street, the majority of the family, there was a mother and a father in that house, in their homes. Okay, it wasn't just only a mother or a father in the homes. It was both. Now, there were some homes that were single parents, and there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, I want to make that clear. But we were no different than anybody else. And so there were things going on. And so it was also an opportunity to share some history and to share some experience, to teach, to show, to tell you about something that you don't know about, but you want to know about it. And then when you hear about it, you're thinking, oh my goodness, it's no different than what my friends and family did. We're the same. That's correct. It's just that my skin color is different, but that's okay too, you know? So all of that, we thought that it was a good thing to tie into the book. And it tells a beautiful story, just a beautiful story. So,
Yeah, most definitely. Like I said, it made it a richer story and much more complete. And you could really understand and feel things because of that.
Michelle, one thing, and I say this now, that I know why Tim and I wrote the book, and I know why we enjoy it, but I someday would like to sit down with a group of people to ask them, what is it about the book that made you like it? What is it that you related to? Because this book relates to anybody, everybody, male or female, young and old. It relates to anybody because we all have challenges that we have to overcome. And we have challenges that you have to solve, happy ones and bad ones. We all do. How'd you handle it? What'd you do? So I'd like to, one day I'm going to do that.
Nice, nice. Well, I can share with you, from my perspective. One, I thought there was a lot of charm, in those wonderful behind the scenes stories. And I know fans loved hearing those things, but it really also carried a lot of emotional depth and vulnerability. You were very generous in how you openly shared your hard moments, your fun moments, and I want to know, was that difficult for you to open like that, or did you feel like, okay, it's just a leap of faith, I got to do it because of the book, or where did that come from?
It I wanted people to know what I went through with the hopes that they would realize what they went through, and you don't let those things stop you from doing what you want to do. Go for your goal, okay? Go for your dream. You can do it. Don't not do it. Don't let anybody stop you from succeeding that dream, that goal. I did have someone to tell me that I wouldn't make it in corporate America and that I needed to learn how to do something with my hands. What he didn't know is that I knew how to do something with my hand. I'm a seamstress and I'm a very good seamstress, but he didn't know that. But instead of him saying something to me to encourage me to keep going, because I was that type of person and he knew it, you're going to tell me to step down. So that didn't go over well with my mother and I. And on one hand, it pissed me off. But on the other hand, it made me, you have to, you can't think that's not right. That pin he stuck in your butt, get going and don't stop. And I didn't. I didn't stop. I didn't have And I mean this in a positive, pleasant way. I didn't have the pleasure of telling him about any of my successes, but my sister did. She was invited back to our old high school as an honorary student, um, past student, and he was there and he asked about me and she told him she works at Disneyland and she's not a ride operator. Okay.
Right, right. So, Tim, kind of into this thought, what was it like for you when Martha did approach you to say, "Hey, will you work on this book with me?" What through your mind? What was your experience with that request?
I was looking for the closest door.
You're so funny.
Is that because
Here's a
she called you whack-a-mole?
No, I thought it was great, actually. I love the idea. The thing with Martha's book, and I've told Martha this a dozen times, my favorite part of Martha's book is everything before she arrives at Disneyland, because I'm a history buff.
Mm.
So, and Martha's family was very good at keeping records of the family, right? So the fact that it goes back so far, her family story goes back so far, I found really interesting. Um, and so the fact that we were able to weave that story together, um, and the fact that her family story, starts in the Carolinas and even a little bit before that, and then comes west, and then has this whole Hollywood connection, which is kind of cool, you know. And it is this great American success story. Um, and I think it's kind of unexpected. This story kind of takes these kind of twists and turns. Um, and I think the funniest thing is, and we were talking about this the other week, that Martha's first brush with Disney happened when she was a toddler. That she rode her tricycle in the basement of what would become the embassy of the Kingdom of Genovia, which is the now I'm blanking
Princess Diaries.
yeah, Princess Diaries, but it's the Doheny Mansion in LA, you know. So I think that's just kind of funny that Martha, you were destined. You were destined to be a Disney legend, destined to be Disney royalty. Um, but yeah, that whole section of the book, I just found that fascinating, and putting that all together with Martha, um, and visiting that whole thing with her father and mother, and Martha's upbringing and everything, because Martha lived all of Martha. I'm just going to talk like you're not here, so just
I got it.
uh, so through the Watts riots and the change of the 70s and all of that, like you said, and having that timeline against American history and the culture changes and all of that. I just found that really fascinating to do. So I'm glad you picked up on that in the book. And other people on Amazon have brought that up as well. So I'm glad they picked up on that and that you picked up on that, because that was kind of our goal, to kind of have these parallel stories happening at the same time.
Yeah, it's
So
like the complete guide map there.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
then, and we also tried to do that with the Disneyland story as well.
Hmm.
The one thing about this book, which I think this is kind of the one of the first books that does this, is that, you know, the fact that Martha's story, her Disney story, starts in 1971. I think Martha's book and Kevin Rafferty's book are the two that kind of start in the 70s. Um, there aren't too many Disney books that start in 70s, 80s, 90s. They always start, back 40s, 50s, 60s.
Hmm.
And so for fans who are accustomed to the 70s, 80s, and 90s, there aren't a lot of Disney books out there. So as you were saying, Michelle, some of the things that Martha was describing in the book, you're like, oh, I remember that. I did that. Oh, I remember this. I remember that. So these are things that you could relate to,
Right.
right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
that was nice to hear you say that.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Many fond memories were brought back from reading this
Yeah.
book,
Yeah. Yeah.
as well as new things too. Yeah.
Sure.
There's so many things that, I mean, again, it's Black History Month. Okay. So the fact that you can look at this book and Martha's life and learn, not only, obviously, we're here, we're a Disney podcast. We love hearing things about Disney. We love Disneyland. But the fact that you can also weave into it this piece of Americana that many people do not have access to, or well, they do have access to it, but don't get it told to them, or do not get to experience it or find out about it. That this is in fact available for you is a nice balance between the two. So that's phenomenal. Martha, I want to ask you about Pulse, because I love how you're kind of taken your story and moved it forward and have, helped co-found this organization that is helping others in roles similar to how you started. Because yes, as much as we want to believe everything is great for the Black community out there, and obviously I'm sure it is. Well, you could speak to this. I can't. You could speak to this, Martha, better than maybe when you started. But there still are people of need, people that we need to help along the way, right, Martha? Could you speak
Mentor.
to, yeah, could you speak to that organization, please?
Well, it was myself and two other cast members that founded Pulse. Myself, Martha Blanding, Peter Hardison, and Mark Saunders. And Mark actually started talking about it first because he had heard about the diversity groups being started at Disneyland, at Disney, period, the company, period, and thought that we needed to do something to form a diversity group. And so he talked to Frida about it, and then they felt that they needed someone who had a voice to also be a part of it. And so they asked me if I would join in, and I said, yes, I would. And this is a group, this is a place where you can get together and talk about your career. You could talk about if you have issues about something. We can't fight your battles. You have to fight your own battles. But sometimes you need somebody that you can talk to, that understand what's going on and that can just kind of guide you to the right person that you need to talk to get the answer that you need. Whether it's career-wise, whether it's that you have a problem and you need to talk to somebody, that's what, and all of the diversity groups were kind of basically doing the same thing. But it was a great networking area because even though, and I'm going to use myself as an example, even though I started at Disneyland as a tour guide, is that what I wanted to do career-wise for the rest of my life, is to be a tour guide? And if there were other areas and I knew someone that was in our group that was in another area, I could go and talk to them and maybe be able to spend some time with them so I can see exactly what happens in that division, what's going on, what are they talking about? Is it something that I like, or is it something that I wouldn't like? And so we formed Pulse. And Walt Disney World had their Black diversity group before we did at Disneyland. And they're called Pulse also. So it was Pulse in Florida and Pulse at Disneyland. And then we formed ours. And Pulse at Disneyland, when we did our presentation, it was so well received by everyone that we would like the leaders of the other diversity groups of examples of how you should do things and how you should set your goal for the group. So it wasn't a personal goal for me. It was a goal for everybody, the things that we did. So even there, we did things like introducing them to Juneteenth, introducing them, talking about Martin Luther King, talking about some of our other leaders that we have, and also talking about Kwanzaa, talking about our food that we eat, and we had one meeting where we talked about Kwanzaa, and in that meeting we had fried chicken, greens, black-eyed peas, cornbread, and there were a lot of people who never had that before. Once they had it, It's like, can we have some more? So it was a lot of different things. We did many educational things, many things for the careers, and many things for fun also. And so it still is going on now. In Pulse, I was a mentor to a lot of our cast members, and I'm still a mentor to a lot of the cast members also. And we have a group of Black young women that are at the park, and they're coming in and they want to have a career at Disneyland. And there are some challenges that they have, and they need to want to, know how to handle them. So we meet once a month and we talk about their different challenges that they have. And again, I can't fight your battle. You have to fight your own, but we can help you and lead you in the right direction. And it has been quite successful and very well received by even the leaders that are at Disneyland now, presidents, vice presidents, directors, senior managers. They love it. And again, I'm retired, so it's only so much I can do, but I don't step on their toes, but I do talk. And it's not just me. We have 4 seniors. It's myself, I'm retired, Rita Hardison, who's retired also, Veronica Horton, who's not retired, but she's a senior. Oh, it's 5 of us. Tammy Edwards, she's a senior manager in HR. And then we have a person that used to work at Disneyland, and she was the first Black cast member to apply to become a Disney ambassador. Mm-hmm. She didn't get it. She should have, but she didn't get it. But she opened the doors for other Black cast members to apply to become a Disney ambassador. And since then, we've had several of them. And her name is Gwen. She was Cheatham, but now she's a Spence, Gwen Spence. So we're like the big sisters. And then you have our little sisters, and we talk about different things. And then we also try to do social things also. So it's really good. It's a great support group. And like I said, it's not to cause a problem, it's to help you solve problems.
Yeah. I love it. I love how you're kind of taking the torch from your mom, who was very also active in community schools and things. And it's just lovely to see you taking that same role too.
Thank you. And I want to share this one thing with you. And with the Pulse group, and this, while I was there, one day we were having a meeting, and in our Pulse meeting, I was sitting there and I was looking around the room, and I noticed all these allies that were sitting in the meeting with us. And so we're talking about, issues concerning Black people and other things. And finally I said, can I ask the question? And they said, yeah. And I said, why are you here? And they said, what do you mean? I said, this is a Black diversity group, right? They said, yes. I said, why are you here? They said, because we like the way you treat us. And for me, that's the best compliment you can get, because you're no better than I am. I'm no better than you. You treat each other the same, and you treat each other with respect. And they were members of our Pulse group. So I was with the group not too long ago, and I asked them, do you guys still have a lot of allies? They said, yeah, Martha, we do. We do. We still have a lot of allies. And I think that's wonderful. That is just wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. Impressive. The way we should all be believing.
Correct.
Content of your character, not the color of your skin, right? I mean,
Correct.
The most important thing above all. You're paying it forward. It's so incredible. Definitely a Disney legend. There's no question about this. And I want to ask you about that. You mentioned the Disney leadership that we have now. Well, you have an interesting story about the Disney leadership we have now and how you found out you became a Disney legend. Could you retell that story for our listeners, Martha, please?
This is going to get loud. This is going to get loud.
That's what we've been waiting for, Tim.
Yeah. This is going to get loud.
Still mad at you, Tim O'Day. So don't. Okay.
I had nothing to do with it.
I'm still mad at you.
Had nothing to do with it.
You know what? I had no idea this was happening. You don't know that this is going to happen to you because it's not something that you apply for. They choose you. You're chosen. And so I, it's the furthest thing from my mind. And one day I was sitting at home and just so happened everybody had left to go on, do errands, go to the doctor's appointments or whatever. And I was by myself. And so I'm sitting on the couch watching TV and my phone rings. And so I look at it and it's a number that I'm not familiar with. But it was an 818 number. And another friend of mine, Michelle Harker, she had called me to tell me that Michael Bargo was looking for me, trying to get in contact with me. And she said, is it okay if I give him your number? And I said, yeah, give him, absolutely, that's fine. So I thought that maybe this telephone call was from him. And so I picked up the phone and I said, hello. And it was a female voice. And she said, is this Martha Blanding? And I said, yes, it is. And she introduced herself, identified herself. And she said that she was from Josh Tomorrow's office. And I said, oh, okay. She said, do you know who that is? I said, yes, I know who that is. I know who Josh is. And we were laughing. And she said, well, he said that he had spoken to you a couple of times. I said, yes, he has. And so she said, was telling her what I thought about him. I think he's great. I think he's wonderful. And so she said, Martha, he would like to speak to you. And I said, what? And I thought, oh God, what did I do? And usually when I do something, make a mistake, I usually make big mistakes. I don't make little mistakes. And I'm thinking, I said, but I'm retired. Well, how can I make, what could be the problem now? I'm not working there anymore. I'm retired. And so then I thought, well, maybe he's found out about the book and he's calling to congratulate me about the book. And I said, but why would he do that? I'm just saying, talking all these things in my head. And so I'm waiting for him on the phone. And then finally you hear this voice, hello, Martha, this is Josh. I said, hi, Josh, how are you? He says, fine. He goes, do you remember me? I said, are you kidding me? Yes, I remember you. And he's laughing on the phone and everything. And he says, you have done such a tremendous job at Disney. And a lot of people have said a lot of wonderful things about you and the things that you have done and your accomplishments. And I'm going, okay. I said, thank you. And he's just going on about how wonderful I am and how I get along with people and the jobs that I've done. And, I'm just have stepped out of the box and done more than what I've been asked to do. And it's really nice. But then I'm also thinking, okay, the other shoe is going to drop, so get ready. And then he says, now I want to tell you why I called you. And I said, okay. He goes, Martha, we would like to make you a Disney legend. Every word in my body just left my body. And all I could say was, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. But I'm screaming this in his ear on the phone. I'm going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And then I realized that I'm screaming in his ear. And I go, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm screaming in your ear. I'm so sorry. He goes, he's laughing. And he's going, no, that's okay. That's fine. And I go back to, oh my God, 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 oh my God. And so then he says, now, someone is going to call you and explain more about the procedure for the legend.
Procedure? What is this? Is it an outpatient thing? What do you mean procedure? Where did that come from? You've never said procedure before. What? Procedure?
Look, the look.
Just clarifying.
Someone was going to call you and tell you the process for the Disney legend. Are you happy? Now, I'm not going to give you any more quarters, so forget about the ice cream, okay? to tell you the process about the legend ceremony and everything. So I said, okay. He goes, but I need to talk to you about something else. I said, okay. He goes, you have to keep this a secret. And I said, okay. He says, can you do that? And I said, yes. He says, we're going to release a press release mid-March. And I'm thinking, what the hell? This is January. And I have to keep this quiet until mid-March. It's like I'm thinking, what you tell me for? Okay. And he says, can you not say anything until then? And I'm going, okay. I'm not going to tell him I can't. Okay. He said, okay. And I'm crying now. And he says, now, you'll also get a letter from Bob Iger. And I'm going, oh, Lord, have mercy, Jesus, Bob Iger. Oh, my God, a letter from him. Oh, and it's just to confirm that you are going to become a Disney legend. And I said, okay, that's fine. He goes, now, I want you to go and enjoy the rest of your day. And we'll be getting in contact with you later. And if you have any questions, you are welcome to call me back. And I'm going, yeah, okay. Okay. So I hang up the phone and I'm sitting there and I call my sister. So I call my sister and I'm crying. And I said, Mary, she goes, what's wrong? I said, I have something to tell you. And she said, are you okay? I said, no, I'm fine. I'm okay. I said, but I just got a call from Josh tomorrow. She knows who he is. And she said, yeah. And I said, Renella, they're making me a Disney legend. She says, you are kidding me. And she was in the car. She says, let me pull the car over. She pulled the car over and we were both crying on the phone. She goes, I'm so proud of you. I think that is so wonderful. And she's just going on and on and on. And I'm crying. And then she said, do you think Tim knows about it? And I said, I don't know. He hasn't said anything to me about it. And she said, I said, okay, I'm not supposed to say anything. And so she says, I'll be home as soon as possible. I said, okay. So I hang up the phone. I had talked to Tim that morning. He was leaving to go to San Francisco. We talked on the phone and we talked about whatever it was we needed to talk about and hung up. Then something else came up and I needed to talk to him again. So I tried to call him again, but he didn't answer. So I was waiting for him to call me back. So just as I hung up the phone from Mary, the phone rang again. And who is it?
No, you called me. I didn't call you. You called me.
Okay, fine.
Okay, let me just say one thing. Procedure.
Shut up. Shut up. So I called him. I called him back and I said, he said, hello. And I said, you know, don't you? He goes, Martha, what are you talking about? I said, you know, don't you? He goes, I don't know what you're talking about. I said, you know, don't you? He goes, Martha, I haven't the slightest idea what you're talking about. I said, you know, don't you? And he stopped and then he went, congratulations. I said, you knew and you didn't tell me? How long have you known? He said, I've known since December. December? You know since
I knew
December?
since August. I knew since August.
That makes it even worse. And so he said, but Martha, I couldn't say anything. They made me promise not to say anything. And when you guys came over for Christmas dinner to the house, I knew then, but I couldn't say anything. And he said, I wanted to tell Mary, but I couldn't say anything to Mary. I said, I hate you. I'm mad at you. And I'm never going to forgive you for this. And we're going on and on and on and on. And he's talking to me and I kept going, I hate you. And he would say something else. I go, I hate you. And so he said, they made me promise not to say anything. He said, I told Tracy, his wife, he says, I had to make her promise not to say anything either. And I said, and both of you knew when we had dinner? He said, yeah. I said, I don't hate Tracy. I hate you, though.
Martha, even our dog knew.
I really hate you now.
Yeah.
I'm still mad at you. but it was amazing. And I'm very honored that I'm a Disney legend. And the job that I did, I worked with the legends. So I knew what they were all about, but I also knew what their accomplishments were. Not that I didn't think that I didn't deserve it, but I just didn't think it would happen to me. I just didn't think that, wasn't thinking that way at all. And then when this happened, it just really knocked me off my feet. And I didn't tell anybody. My sister, and that was it. So when they made the announcement on, in mid-March, my phone started beeping. People started calling me and sending me texts. And I answered the phone and they go, "A Disney legend?" And another friend of mine said, "Martha, you are all over the park, from the hotel to Disneyland to Disney's California Adventure, all backstage in all the buildings. You are the talk of the town." And I said, "Really?" And they said, "Everybody is so happy for you." And I said, "Really?" And they said, "Yeah, everybody is very happy for you." And it was like, wow, wow. And I'm getting my arms around it. And like I said, I appreciate it and I'm very honored. But it's a mouthful, I tell you. It's
What a touching story. I love it.
And so
Well, no,
extremely well
you
deserved.
know, there's a little after story to that, you
shut
know.
up.
No, there is. There's a sweet little after story to it, you know.
What?
So you know that Martha lost her house in the Altadena fire, right?
Mhm.
So Martha called me. When was that lunch, Martha B? Was it
Oh, it was in
was it
May
was it last May?
it was in May because they did it on my anniversary date that I was hired in on May the 29th.
Yeah, gosh, that seems so long ago. So last May, Martha calls and she says, "What are you doing?" Like, "I'm working. What else am I doing?" And she says, "Are you free next Tuesday or whatever the day was?" I said, "I don't know why." She goes, "Can you come up to Burbank?" And I said, "What for?" She goes, "There's like this luncheon thing. I'm not quite sure what's going on. They've invited me up. Mary's going. It's a thing." And I said, "Well, what's it about?" "It's a thing. They want me at the studio. It's a thing." I'm like, "Well, thanks for all the detail. So you want me to come all the way up to Orange County for a thing? You
Come on,
know,
it's the thing. It's
And
the
on
the
thing,
thing.
Tim. Come
The
on.
thing.
the studio.
Yeah, it's at the studio, you know." And I'm like, "Okay." And so anyway, we get up there and Disney Legends Plaza is set for something, you know. And we get there, it's like, oh, well, it has something to do with Martha and Colleen Atwood, who also was named a Disney legend. And long story short, Bob Iger and others, the leadership team, were there to replace all of Martha's service awards and her Disney Legend Award, and same with Colleen. Well, if that wasn't enough, and they had a nice little ceremony and a luncheon and all of that, which is, terrific. Then on top of that, then they unveiled Martha and Colleen's handprints in Legends Plaza, and it was really really nice, wasn't it, Martha B?
It was. Colleen lost her home too. She lived in Pacific
Mm,
Palisade and she
mm.
lost her home when we were only two that lost our homes. It was really nice. And um, they told me that it was Bob Iger's idea to do this, that
Wow.
he wanted to do the luncheon for the two of us to give us back our awards. So and the carver, the person that created the Legends Award was there also.
Yeah,
Wow.
Andrea
Andrea,
Fafili.
yeah, it was
Wow.
it was beautiful. It was
Wow.
very nice.
How
Yeah,
special.
yeah.
Yes.
How
Very
special.
So I'm glad I went up all the way from Orange
Mhm.
County to
For the
Burbank
thing.
for Martha's thing, because she's so full of detail in that regard. And so I went up there for a procedure, and there was no escargot on the menu.
And
So,
she
You're
gave
not
you a
gonna,
quarter, said she offered ice
and
cream.
I
So,
didn't get a quarter. There was
you're
no
not
ice
gonna,
cream.
you're not gonna let that go, are you?
No, no.
That's fine. Remember what I told you about karma?
You gotta slap me
Just,
senseless.
you just remember that, okay?
Yes,
Okay?
yes.
Okay. All right.
Karma has a name. It's
Karma
Martha.
hasn't, yeah. I haven't, you see what I have to go through?
Oh,
oh,
man. Man.
we love it from afar. I'll tell you what, we're getting a kick
Yes.
out of it.
It's awesome.
You two are
Awesome.
amazing
Yeah.
together. I don't know. You need to go on tour together or something. I don't know. You guys are
We
so
did,
fun.
and they won't let us back.
We've done several signings together and presentations and stuff, and people look at us and they just go, and they look at, he has his wife Tracy, who was beautiful, and she's a good friend of mine also. And I just look at her and I go, Tracy, please. And she goes, I know, Martha, I know.
Martha left out the adjectives she usually uses. Kim's long-suffering wife, Tracy.
Oh, man.
Well, we've taken way too much of your time. So thank you so much. The book is amazing. Again, it's entitled Groundbreaking Magic, A Black Woman's Journey Through the Happiest Place on Earth. You can find it pretty much everywhere you get books, Amazon, wherever you're looking for it. You can find it in the Disney parks. We'll post a link to where you can find it as well on this show. But man, this has been truly special. Tim O'Day, Martha B. Man, amazing. Thank you so much for giving so much of your time. We really, really appreciate you so much.
And don't forget, if you do read the book, leave a review on Amazon. If you
Yes,
please.
yes,
Please,
yes.
please.
Definitely.
Or
Yes.
5.
Or 5, yes, or 10. If you get some free, if you do 10, free escargot.
Yeah.
Get the punch card going.
Funny. You're real funny.
Yeah, that's funny.
Thank you for having us. I really I feel very honored and appreciate it. And it's so nice meeting the both of you. And I'm so glad that you enjoyed the book.
Definitely. Well, it's our honor to have both of you on here, and Open Door, you can join us anytime. We just barely scratched the surface of all the wonderful things in the book. I just can't recommend it high enough, but this has been such an honor and a pleasure for us. It's been great.
Thank you so much. And Tim, we still need to get you to tell that turkey pardoning story at some point on this show. So we'll get you
another
back
time.
Another time.
Yes,
We'll do it
yes.
another time.
Yes.
We'll come back again, and then he can tell you about the turkeys, and we
Nice.
can talk about other things too.
That'll be fun.
That'd be fun.
Martha Blanding, Martha B. Tim O'Day, thank you again for joining us on the Hyperion Adventures podcast.
Thank you.